back to another episode of Trash is Full. We are your hosts. My name is Jackie, and with me is Wes. And this week's episode, we are going to talk about mental health, with it being May and Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to talk about specifically my mental health journey. Back in October, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and anxiety. So we're going to kind of talk about our journey leading up to that point and after that point and kind of where we are today with it.
Yeah. It was a journey.
It was a journey.
For sure.
Right?
That's the right
We're
word.
still on the journey. Well, I know I still am, honestly. So I would say it kind of started a couple of years ago, kind of pandemic. The start of that just brought on a lot of additional stress, something that I don't manage very well kind of as it is. And then you're kind of throwing more on top of it.
Yeah, paint the scene. What was going on right before the pandemic, and then what did it look like after?
So before the pandemic, we just had our fourth baby. We were thrilled. We realized that we kind of outgrew the space, and so we, found a bigger house. We moved. Kind of just got settled in when everything kind of shut down. So now, we're all home, kind of not knowing what to do. And then I would say probably a month or two after that happened, we found out that we were going to have baby number 5. So being pregnant and having 3-4-month-old and having a scary pandemic where, you don't know what's going to happen. There was no toilet paper. There wasn't formula at a certain time. And just all of that just freaked me out. And just really, my anxiety levels were through the roof with that. But I was just this is what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, you should be anxious right now. Those are scary times.
With your job too, you were a in-class teacher. Mm-hmm. And now, at the drop of a dime, okay, with no, design
training,
with no design curriculum or training,
yeah,
everyone just figure out how to make this work. Ready to go.
Try to get these kids onto Zoom and try to, get them to successfully finish out the year, with them being scared and not knowing what's going on and, things happening in their own homes. So
can I tell you something?
Yeah.
And this is probably really selfish of me. Not until you just described the whole picture did I connect that moment to what you went through. I think.
You mean at that time?
Yeah. So you're kind of you're not a worrywart, but you'll fixate on some stuff. I just won't watch the news. But every day I'd come home from work. Oh, by the way, I couldn't stay at home.
Yeah.
Not one single day.
No.
We were at work every day. But I'd come home and you were watching the news.
I think that was just
turn that shit off.
I like to be informed. I'm someone who wants to kind of know what's going on in the world, and especially being pregnant, there was so much stuff out there about that, or I guess maybe not known about what could happen if you got it when you were pregnant. And so I was, you know what I mean? I feel had I not been, and maybe if we had not had, the 3-month-old at the time, my anxiety probably wouldn't have been so high. But just having that extra stress of being at home and trying to also work full time while taking care of a baby, I can't take her to daycare. I think that just really kind of oh gosh, shit's real. So yeah, so then, things started calming down though. School's opening back up. kids can go back to daycare, with restrictions and all that good stuff. And I think what kind of that next hurdle was okay, I'm working full time, I'm a full-time teacher. And I think now we had we had 2 babies, right?
Yeah.
So we have two littles. We had 2 under 2 basically at that point. And just getting them ready for daycare. And it was just exhausting. Getting them ready, coming home, it was a lot for me.
Yeah, packing everything up,
Yeah,
bottles,
making
diapers.
the bottles.
Any
Yeah, and then
parent
even
can relate.
yeah, but then even coming home in the evening after work, it was okay, you got to make dinner, you've got to get them bathed, put them to bed, and they're waking up at night, and it was
no sleep. The normal parent stuff on top of pandemic, on top of a lot of stress and anxiety for you. I'm working
a lot.
Minimum 12 hours a day at that point.
A lot. So a lot kind of on my own.
And then what kind of sets the spiral is since we're both super stressed about our own situations.
Yes.
We now no longer get together or get along. And then that makes it worse because now we're carrying that stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And then it just spirals and spirals.
Yeah. So that definitely doesn't help. That just adds one more thing, And so I think at that point, I remember we had that conversation because it was taking a toll on our relationship. It was getting so bad that we were we need to talk to somebody. So we did the online therapy, and her advice to us was that I needed to stop working. Or was it the second time?
I want to say it was probably the third. So, okay, let's backpedal a little bit. When we decided that we were going to do therapy online, had you had any sort of formal therapy sessions up until that point?
No, never.
Okay, me neither.
No.
So what did you think our first session was going to be like?
I actually thought it was going to be like it was.
Really?
To be honest with you. Yeah. If you're doing it online, I feel like it's going to be different than in person. So I was just kind of open to it and flexible and just kind of okay, I can't help. This person's a professional and
Yeah.
But her advice was that I should, that was the second time.
Was it?
Yeah. Cause remember, so things got so bad that we had sat down and talked and we were we said that I should stay home with the kids. It would be a lot easier. We financially could do it. It would help with the stress. I could help manage things around the house. So that's what we did. So I put in my resignation.
That's right.
Yes, left, right? So then summer was great.
Yeah.
You get all that sun, vitamin D, nice days. You go for walks with the girls, take them to the park and the pool, and things are good, right? But then the school year starts back up. And I'm not a part of that anymore. Yeah, and I've been a part of that for 8 years.
You're a stay-at-home mom
now. And now I don't get to make those cute beginning of the year, things for my classroom and meet my students for the first time and all that fun stuff. And I was just oh man. I mean, I loved being staying at home with them, but I was just I miss that so much. And so then I was honey, I think I should go back. But I think what made me think that is I had a nice break. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? In the summer, I wasn't working and so I was able to be this isn't so bad. I can do this. What was I time has passed. I can do this now. So then I go back and things good for a year, right? I get through going back for a year. The girls are good with daycare. And then at the end of the year, I accept a new position. So I'm no longer a classroom teacher. I'm more of a interventionist, someone who helps, struggling students. And so I started doing that the next school year. And I would say probably a couple months into it, like just started feeling like those symptoms again. Like I can't manage all this. Like things are getting way too heavy. Like it's just a lot. And I remember the day I went to school, and the other teacher that I shared the classroom with, she wasn't there that day. Thank goodness. Because I went in there and I just sat like at my table, and I just like, I was frozen. I couldn't move. I was supposed to go get like my first group of students. Couldn't move. I was just like, and then I just started to cry. Like, thank goodness she wasn't there, because how awkward would that have been for her? She'd have been like, what the hell is wrong with you? What, like...
Or she'd be like, me too, girl. And
No, I don't think she would have, honestly. And so I just was like, I can't do this today. Like, so I went to my, I don't think my principal was there. He was off doing something. So I went to my assistant principal and just like broke down in front of her in her office and was just bawling. And I was just like, I'm having a really hard time, like just with everything. I'm so overwhelmed. And so she was so like comforting and sweet about it. And she's like, let's go talk to, like, we have like a counselor at school. Like she's not just like a kid counselor. She's more like, she bridges the gap between like school and the homes to make sure that, kids are being taken care of and things like that. There's no neglect or abuse or going on. So she's there, and we go and talk to her, and, she's a professional about it. And we talk, and, I share a lot with her. She asks about, if I'm feeling sad or anxious. And I was like, yeah, I'm all of those things. And she's like, you really need to, you need to talk to somebody. You need to see a doctor about this. And she's like, why don't you, go home, take the rest of the day. And so I did. I went home and just laid in bed and just, it was just super sad is the best way to describe it. And then I remember feeling like that. That was the last day I was at school. I never went back. Like that was the last day. And I remember feeling like that for probably a week. And I think at that time, like you and I weren't talking.
Yeah.
Like we had gotten in a fight about something or a disagreement about something. And what we do is we just don't talk to each other. Like that's how we, that's how we manage. We don't have these big blow up fights. We just avoid each other at all costs. So we weren't talking. So I didn't have you to, you know what I mean, go to at first. So it was probably about a week into it. And I remember coming to you and I was like, I need some help.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you were like, yeah, I can't.
Like, I'm not okay.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, oh shit, are we getting divorced?
Is that what you thought?
And then you were like, I need help. And then I was like, oh wow, I don't know if I've ever heard you say that.
Yeah. So I remember we just like held each other and I cried.
Yeah.
And then
we hadn't talked for like 4 days.
I know. Yeah.
And then you came to me. So it was really strong.
Yeah. And so then the journey begins of trying to find the help. And for me, that was probably the most difficult part. Was first, like, who do you go to? Do you go to your regular doctor? Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. And so the lady at my school, she gave me some numbers to like reach out to and some people to reach out to.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so a lot of the places that I called, they were like, oh, well, we're booked out until this month or you'll have to wait. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I can't wait. Like, I need to see somebody now. because I was at the point where I was having suicidal ideations. And I was thinking of ways like, how could I do this? And I remember one of the ways was, let me get Wes's belt and I'll just put it around my neck and just do it from the doorknob in the bathroom. And it'll just be over. Yeah. So
Never shared that with me.
No, I have not.
Wow.
So I was actually like thinking like, how could I do this? Oh, here's a way. So trying to find the help was the most difficult. And so I finally was able to make an appointment, but it wasn't until a couple of weeks out. I was able to see, first a doctor, and then a therapist, but I needed to see someone right away. So I just called my gynecologist and I was like, they're like, we can see you tomorrow. And I was like, yes, I will be there. And I remember like going in there and talking with her. And of course I'm just like crying and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I'm having all these feelings and symptoms and like nobody like help me. Like you know what this is. And she was like, okay, it seems like, a little bit of depression there. She's like, I can give you some medication, but it's just going to be for 1 month. She's like, you need to go see, an actual like medical doctor. They only treat women that are like postpartum with those kind of symptoms, like postpartum depression, stuff like that. Like they don't just. So luckily she did give me some medicine that just kind of helped like just mellow me. Yeah, basically numb me. And then at that same time, while I was waiting to see my actual doctor, I started to see the therapist. And she was amazing. It was, I was able to go see her in person and we talked about things and, her and my doctor, they both, came to the conclusion that I did have major depressive disorder with high anxiety. And so still taking medication for that definitely helps. I've noticed though that there are still times where I feel those same feelings. They're definitely not as strong. And I would say it's probably once a month that it happens. So yeah, the medication has helped. So therapist and I kind of came to the conclusion that, we did work on like some different, like cognitive behavior skills and strategies to try just to help like with stress and feelings of like being overwhelmed. But we kind of felt that the medication was really working. So kind of only need sessions kind of like on a need basis. So if I feel like I need to talk to somebody, then we get together. So yeah.
The end, right?
Yeah, the end. Happily ever after.
It's a lot.
It was a lot.
It's a lot to unpack. Good job. Good job sharing. No, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
So many questions.
Okay.
Are you okay if I ask questions about?
Yeah, I'm okay with you asking questions about whatever. Yeah, I'll share anything you want to know.
So, I think every human has thought about what it would be like to die, what it would be like to, kill themselves. Like, you just play that out in your head. Like every human's done it, right?
Okay. Well,
What is the difference between that and what you experienced?
So, I've definitely had suicidal thoughts before, especially as like a young adolescent. You're coming into things, you're like, I would be better off. Like, I've definitely had those thoughts before, but I've never like thought it through. Like, if I wanted to, I could have. Who would have been there?
Yeah.
You weren't there.
No.
You were at work. Kids were all at daycare. Like, I could have, and I had a plan. So I think the difference is like you're actually picturing it in your head. Like, okay, I could do this. Yeah, that would work. Okay, like, but then I would get to that point where I would just stop.
Yeah. What caused
I don't
that?
know. I think.
Did you picture the girls?
I think it was, just you all, like just everybody. Like
You're like, I can't trust him to raise all 5 of these kids.
No. Well, I mean, that's a major, burden for you. No, I think I would just, the more I would thought about it, then the more like sad I would be. And nobody really realizes that when you have depression, like it's as much physical as it is mental. You are exhausted. Your body is hurting. It aches. You feel like you have the flu. Like your body is hurting that much. And you have literally, it was hard for me to get up, like out of the bed just to go shower. Like that was exhausting to me. And sometimes I would just sit on the floor in the shower because not only was that like comforting to me at that point, but also like I just didn't have the energy to stand there. Like
it's wild. And like I've never gone through that.
Yeah.
And I've never been close enough to anyone else who has gone through that for them to share that with me. So I had no clue what was going on and what I should do.
Yeah. But you were really great about it.
It was.
Because I couldn't imagine what that's like to see your partner, your spouse, like just stuck in bed all day and just miserable. Like you want to help them, but you feel powerless. Like what? Like I remember like you would bring me lunch and you would come and like just sit with me and check in on me. And like that was huge. Like that was really, really helpful to see that you weren't just like giving up and being like, oh, get over it. Like, come on, get up.
Dude, so many of those thoughts went through my head. So
really?
And I think you going through that and me figuring out, what if anything can I do, to help. Mm-hmm. That started making me think more about, okay, no one is the same. Like no two people are the same. They can go through the exact same experience together and experience it differently.
Yeah.
Like initially I was like, oh, we were having a fight. She thought we were going to get divorced. So she's doing this to like get attention and sympathy. Like that crossed my mind.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, she doesn't want to work anymore. So she's going to do this so she can like, I have to like process it until I like I had to like prove all those things wrong.
Okay.
And I'm like, I go through way more stress. What is she, like, why can't she handle this and this and this?
Yeah. And I feel like that's part of the reason why a lot of people kind of don't
I think so.
Admit when they need help or that they are struggling because people view that as being weak. And I definitely don't want to be viewed as that. I've always prided myself on, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I had those thoughts
can
about
manage this. I can handle this. I can, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the time I had to be independent. But for some reason, I feel like everyone's got a breaking point.
Yeah.
And I think I'd finally reached mine, even though I was desperately trying so hard not to, by saying like, oh, like my mind and my body was telling me, no, you need to, take something off your plate. You need to kind of, and it just, I mean, my therapist was like, you were essentially working 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And that would make anybody like break. Like
Yeah.
nobody can keep that up.
I had to, like, anytime I would have a thought about, okay, what is going on with her, I would have to, like, disprove it in my head. So I'm like, oh, she's weak. Well, I've seen all the things that we've gone through and that you've gone through. So I'm like, well, that's not it. You know, and I had to, like, keep going down this checklist. And I was like, all right, I'm going to the internet, right? And I'm like, dude, lots of people have Googled, is my spouse faking depression? You know, and then I was like, well,
Wow.
I'm like, fuck, if other people are having these, and I can't know, right?
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't know what's going on. I've never experienced it. So in my head, it's not a real thing, right?
Because you haven't experienced it's not real.
Not that it's not real, but it's like, I don't know, it wasn't tangible. It wasn't in front of me. I hadn't gone through it, and I didn't know anyone. I thought I didn't know anyone that had gone through it, but I guarantee I have. They just haven't shared that with me.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to get to that point. And then I'm like, okay, who do I trust on the internet to give me this sort of information? And there's a guy that we both like, Dr. John Deloney. And I just went to his YouTube page and I searched like depression and spouse. And like he like told me what I was already feeling. Like, you probably think it's bullshit. You know, you've never experienced it, so why is this person like?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, it's a thing. Someone's already figured it out. Okay, tell me. And then I'm like, oh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you can't really do anything. You just have to be nice and ask them to share when they're ready, and thank them if they do. And if they're not, then you can't pressure them.
It's good advice.
And all you can do is do nice things for them with no expectation that it's going to fix anything. It's another problem of mine is,
Yes.
you got a problem? All right, let's talk it out. Let's fix it right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that ain't going to happen. You know, the spouse or whoever's going through the depression needs to be in some sort of care of a professional with a program, with a plan that's qualified to handle this. It's not you. You know what I mean? You are not qualified to handle this as the spouse. So just make sure they get help. Make sure that if they're prescribed medication, make sure they're taking it. If they have a therapist appointment, make sure they go. Like, that's all you can do.
Yeah, that's good advice.
That was
Hard for you.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
It's made me a better, like, husband. Like, I think.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, just listen.
And I always want to use logic, right? So, like, you know, you finally got a doctor's appointment, you got prescribed medicine, you take it, and like 2 days you're like, it's not working. And I'm like, you know, I've got to, like, hey, you know, it's not gonna. It's going to take some time. And you're like, I don't have time.
Yeah. I remember when they first like prescribed it, they were like, oh, you should feel the full effects in like 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes up to 6 weeks. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like I always assumed like you take medication and it works immediately, right? Like that's how all of it works. But I guess
It's not Tylenol.
well, yeah, they, you know, it has to build up in your system.
So after being prescribed the first medicine, which the way I understood it at the time was not going to be the forever fix. This was like, I'm going to give you this to like take the edge off.
Basically, so you don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
You need this so that I don't hear about you
Yeah.
ending up in the hospital because you tried to commit suicide.
Once that medicine was in full effect, what did that feel like?
So that really wasn't in full effect because it was probably 2 or 3 weeks after that I did see my actual doctor to talk about like the medication and like what I should do. And I remember when I told her, I was like, yeah, my gynecologist prescribed me this medication. And she was just like, whoa, like that's not what I would have started you on. But I feel like she probably did it because she was like, holy shit, like this girl needs some help. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to basically sedate her for a couple of weeks until she can get something, a little bit more stable. So she's not just a zombie walking around.
Yeah, I felt like you were a zombie. If I recall, like I don't think you really wanted to like move or do much.
Yeah.
But I do remember you saying like, I feel cold but I don't feel
Like myself.
like myself. I'm still sad, but like I don't really notice it. Like, it was just kind of like a
Yeah, you're right. I remember saying like I didn't have any feelings.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy, sad. Like I
Yeah.
was just here. I'm
Just
just
gray.
there. Like, yeah, which, I mean, I guess it's great when you're extremely sad to not feel that anymore, but then also to not feel happy and excited and, want to play with your kids. And like, that was probably the hardest part of it was I just was not engaged with them like I normally am. And then the teenagers, like that was rough too, because I had to sit them down and I had to explain to them what was going on with their mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have depression. I'm depressed. And like they didn't know how to take it.
Yeah.
One of them cried. Like I was just like, and doing that, like I felt like such a huge failure.
Really? I was
Yeah.
really proud that you did that.
Yeah, because it is nice to like be open with your kids about that, but at the same time it goes back to that like that weakness thing. Like, oh, my mom's weak, or I didn't want them to feel like, well, we did this to her.
I didn't even think of that.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's because of us. Like if we would do X, Y, Z, she wouldn't have been stressed and she wouldn't have maybe got to this point. So I definitely didn't want them to feel like they were
The cause.
Yeah, the cause or the problem. That it's just.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then you start getting on new medication.
Yeah, which is super great.
Now, this is several months down the road. What do you experience now?
How many months? From November until now. So that is
Like 5,
about
6 months.
6 months
Yeah.
Of being on it. And honestly, it's made me feel like I should have been on this or something similar probably most of my life, to be honest with you. I've always had high anxiety, which it helps with those symptoms as well. It's not just an antidepressant. It's also for anxiety as well. And so it just makes me feel like, oh, like I'm a normal functioning person.
Yeah.
Like,
I think once it kicked in, but I guess like once it started taking its effect and you started getting used to it, like it's like a light switch went off and we were good. And then I was again in my head, I'm like, she doesn't need medicine. It's now she's at home. So our therapist was right. If she stops working and takes that off of her plate,
yeah,
she'll be happy.
That's what when we went to online therapy, that the first time after I'd quit working and then I decided to go back is when we had the struggles. And she was like, oh, well, it's because you need to quit your job.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well,
no, I don't want to quit my job. I was going crazy at home.
She was like, and I don't know, in my mind, I thought they were going to like go back to our childhood and like ask those type of questions to figure out what type of people, like none of that
I
happened.
feel like she probably nailed it. Like,
Well, okay.
without us even knowing it.
So here's the thing. So she's like, she's looking at how we communicate, show affection, care for each other. Like, are we civil? are we aligned with our visions? Like, she went down her whole checklist without going through a checklist.
Right.
She was
Yeah.
asking questions
Yes.
to work through.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't think you guys have a problem. I just think you're too busy. So
Yeah. She's like, you need to take something off your plate.
she's like, can you guys not work, or one of you not work? We're like, yeah. She's like, yeah, just do that and you'll be fine. And I think we quit after like 3 sessions. Like, what a crock of shit.
Yeah. We were like, that's not
Like,
helping.
we have a problem, damn it. And then you quit. And then, we went through the medication, and I was like, oh, fuck, she was right.
She was right.
It's so simple.
Sorry. Yeah, she was right. That's all we needed. It was just too much for.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got too much going on. Somebody's gotta.
Yeah. You throw
somebody's gotta
travel
be
in
home.
there, and it's over.
Yeah. So, so 6 months on the medication. I'm supposed to go back in July.
Okay.
And then my doctor was like, just to see how it's going. She's like, if you want to talk about going off of it, we can. If not, like, kind of it is what it is. Like,
Any desire to do that?
I think about it, not frequently, but sometimes, because some of the side effects that I'm having, kind of annoying.
You're hot as shit all the time. Is
Okay.
that part of it?
Well, yeah, you like sweat a lot.
You get angry when you're hot.
No, I'm just PMSing.
Uh-oh.
So.
Well,
So that's why I'm a
was
little,
like, man.
a little angry. Had a little moment. Sorry.
okay, so what other
so-
other negative symptoms are you?
Oh my gosh. So every time like something new pops up, I have to like Google it and be like, is this a side effect of like an antidepressant? Because like, why am I having like, why all of a sudden, or like, why I've never had this before? Like, what's happening? So like memory loss, and it's like short-term memory.
Yeah.
So I'm like, did I do this? Did I just do that? Did I forget to do that? And I'm like, this is something that happened maybe like 2 minutes ago. Do you know what's happened twice today?
What's up?
I left water running, 2 different faucets. One in the kitchen. I turned it on for something, just walked away. Went about my day, or it wasn't very long. Go upstairs to do something with the laundry, come back down, and Jiggy's sitting there with the girls. And I'm like, did I leave that running? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I didn't know if you wanted me to turn it off. And I'm like, fuck, what's wrong with me? And it's like things like that where I'm like, why did I forget to do that?
So is that a symptom?
And then, yes.
Okay.
So short-term memory loss, it does affect that. It affects your menstrual cycle. That's loads of fun for women. And then there's like weight gain, which I don't know. I mean, I don't think too crazy with that. But yeah, just certain things. And you're just like, but I think absolutely the benefits of it outweigh those. So, I mean, definitely something I'll bring up, but I don't know if like there's an alternative that I could do, or you know what I mean, or if it just kind of is what it is.
Any fear of
Yes.
going off of it and then
Yes.
ending up really?
Mm-hmm. That's another reason why, because I know what like that feeling is still kind of in there.
You feel like you fight it
I
off.
can feel it, and it's little right now. It's real little. It's tucked away, right? And I feel like if I stop, it's gonna come back.
Wow.
And like I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to mentally and physically, and I don't want. It's so like it's a huge fear of mine. So I'm so scared that would happen.
Many times when you were going through it, after I had worked through everything and been like, okay, this is a real thing, and she's going through it,
Mm-hmm.
like I wanted to go through it so I could figure out how to help you. I'm like, if I could just have it,
No,
then
you
I could
don't.
fix
You-
it.
You don't want it.
I know that, but like I had those
Yeah,
thoughts. I'm like,
it's very sweet.
how
But
in the world can I help?
yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Impacted the family. I would like to ask the kids, like, since it's been like 6 months, I'd
Their
like
thoughts on my behavior
like,
and how they think mom's doing.
well, like, yeah, what were their thoughts when they, witnessed what you're going through, and then after you told them?
Do you think they noticed before I told them? Do you think they noticed like that change in my behavior?
Well, so we weren't talking.
Yeah.
And I think
Do you
they,
think they noticed
always
that?
noticed that.
Yeah. That tension is really, it's palpable and
Yeah.
it's easy for kids to pick up on. I mean, I remember picking up on it in my
Yeah.
house growing up.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's peculiar. It's
yeah.
okay. The two people
Well,
that
you can just feel it. Why aren't they hugging and loving and touch like they normally do? What's going on? You
Yeah.
don't want to ask because
they're angry.
you don't you
So
don't you don't want that.
poke the bear.
Yeah.
So like maybe if we were like good at that moment and then you were going through it, I think I would have noticed it. But I was just like, oh, it's one of our silent treatments again. Mm-hmm. Like that's all I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that feel to talk about?
It feels good. It feels good to get that out there. I think it's important for people to hear about it and know about it, and definitely, yeah, I just wish that, I mean, and maybe it's just in our area, it was pretty rural, not a lot of resources. I just wish that the help would have been, more available. Like I could have gotten on better help and found a counselor and all that. But for one, it would have been super costly.
Really?
Because our insurance probably wouldn't have approved it. So we would have paid a lot of money to do that. And that's not, you know what I mean? I wanted to go through the proper channels and not bleed us dry because I'm sick.
Now we're stressed. Another way.
Exactly. So, you're trying to do the right thing by, well, who does my insurance approve and this and that. And it just turns out that, it's just a lot of backlog.
Let's talk about insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what our insurance covered, if anything, because, when you're picking all your benefits, they're never like, do you want some mental health sessions? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of them like come with that. Honestly, I think.
So like, how did you find? Did you just call like our main benefit line?
So I went to the website.
Okay.
I'm laying in bed, and I'm searching for doctors and who can I see? I must have called a handful of places, and was like, no, we don't do that, or we're not available until 3 months out. And a lot of it is due to COVID, because a lot of it kind of got, a lot of things got pushed back. So people are like, oh, it's safe to go.
So you were calling therapist offices to see if you were covered?
No, I was calling them to see if they had availability. Like once I saw that, oh, they covered the insurance, I would call them. And a lot of the times I would either get, oh, well, we don't have appointments until 2 months out, or I wouldn't get an answer at all. It would be, a private practice, and they would have a voicemail.
You found on our insurance's website
a list of.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. We lost juice. Okay. So you went onto our insurance's website, and you got a list of people that would see you.
Yeah.
And you just started going down that list.
And also, you have to determine if you want inpatient or outpatient care. So you can be admitted.
Wow.
Somewhere.
Did you think about that?
I honestly thought a couple of times about like going to the hospital.
Just be like,
because
take me
like help me. Because that's what you're supposed to That's what you're supposed to do. If you're depressed and you're having suicidal thoughts, you're supposed to go to the hospital, and they're supposed to
just watch.
Take you as an inpatient, and they will provide you care and medication and all that. And so like I almost got to that point where I was so desperate. But then again, I was like, what about my kids?
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave them. Like I couldn't do that. I wasn't there yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was really close to that point where I was just like, fuck it. Like,
Yeah.
what about me? Like, I'm going to die here.
Yeah.
Like, but I didn't get to that point. So I think, thank goodness that, my gynecologist was able to help me. I mean, she probably saved my life, to be honest with you.
Any reason you didn't want to share that part with me while you were going through it?
What part is that?
Like, hey, I'm going to kill myself.
I didn't want to scare you. I didn't want you to feel like you
It'd
couldn't.
be pretty scary to find your body.
I know. I didn't want, yeah, well, that's what it was. Like, that's my thinking. I didn't want to scare you, and I didn't want you to feel like you couldn't leave me alone, or that you had to worry about me at work, or whatever the situation was.
I think I would have taken off work.
I was trying to have as minimal impact on you and like your job and all that as I could. 'Cause it's happening to me. It shouldn't also impact you as well. So that's, I think, my reasoning behind it.
Okay.
I was trying to protect you.
Yeah, but you gotta pick your big ass off the floor.
Yeah.
Babe,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I hope it helps at least one person.
I hope so too.
Um,
It's scary, but there's hope. Medication's not a bad thing. Therapy's not a bad thing.
yeah.
They can save your life.
If your spouse tells you they're going through this, just
Believe them.
yeah, believe them.
Support them.
If in your head you're trying to call bullshit, go find some resources to educate yourself. And I'm sure there are Facebook groups or whatever, YouTube, Instagram, however you consume information, Google, ChatGPT, like, try to find sources. I can only speak as the spouse of someone who, went through it. Like, figure out how to be a spouse of someone going through depression, anxiety, and then help them. And then do whatever you got to do in your head so that you can get to the point where you believe them.
There you go.
All right. As they say in showbiz, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.